My name is MayKao, and I am the president and CEO of the Amherst H. Wilder Foundation. All the work that I've done in my career has really been about using the tools that we have in public policy and in the community to do good. And that career path actually brought me here to the Wilder Foundation to be the president and CEO. The Wilder Foundation is really about improving the lives of people, and we're anchored in the capital city of Minnesota. And how we show up in the community is by really identifying critical issues, by addressing them, innovating, and then trying to accelerate them. Our history and being an anchor in the city gives us great geographical intelligence, I'd say, some business and service intelligence. We tend to be the input and the conduit for a lot of community knowledge. People in St. Paul and even in the region count on us to really be a voice for the community, knowledgeable about issues that are actually occurring, and then being extremely responsive to community stakeholders and partners. You know, I thought that I could contribute, having learned more about the Fed, to really creating and generating some public understanding about the Federal Reserve System, but also because I could learn and be a good ambassador for the Federal Reserve System, which is often the role of a director. We're not in the weeds. I mean, we're really providing governance support and then helping to provide insight. I thought it'd be really neat to get to use some of my economic policy skills that I learned in graduate school. I knew enough about the Fed from being in the community, and actually my husband is a former banker. So when I actually talked it over with him, he was like, yeah, this would be a really neat thing to do. The most interesting to me is understanding and learning about the brilliance of the Federal Reserve System, actually. The independence of the Fed, the regional bank system, the fact that we are a centralized banking system that has also decentralization in our regional structure, that's been really very interesting. I think that emerging, probably just because of who I am and because of what I represent on the board, is a great understanding of community and community engagement. It's my job to just make sure that everybody feels heard, to be a good conduit between, or a good bridge, I would say, bridge builder between all the different constituencies that the board has to manage governance-wise. I tend to build really strong relationships. I tend to like people. I tend to like them even if they're really difficult and challenging people. I can honor the choices that people make, and it doesn't have to be my way. It can be our way. That's part of what's created a leadership culture, maybe a team-based culture that says, I accept you. I know you're different from me. I know you're really hard to work with, but I still really like it when you do this. One of the other things I think a lot about for myself is because the Federal Reserve System overall is trying to diversify, is being a spokesperson or a champion for the fact that diversity is a really good thing. And that actually the more diverse perspectives and the diversity in the backgrounds of the people, and also the more racially diverse or ethnically diverse we are, actually the better off we are, because that's when you're going to see the things that you may have missed. There's a great discipline in kind of thinking through all of those multiple perspectives. That's also, I feel like, one of my jobs, or the role of a director, is actually not just around business conditions, but to really bring a different perspective into the Federal Reserve System. One of the most important roles was actually hiring a new president. I was the deputy chair, but the chair who was here we knew was outgoing, and so we decided to team up and co-chair the selection process for finding Neil Kashkari, who is now the president of the Federal Reserve Bank. It's probably one of the most important roles that a board can play, because the board really helps to set up that process. I mean, there's some things that you have to do as required by law, no Class A directors, just B and C directors, all of that. One of the things that we had identified actually as a board of directors in the hiring process was that that there were so many change processes underway within the Federal Reserve System, or being disrupted from outside of the Federal Reserve System. We decided that we really needed somebody who was good at managing change, who was an excellent communicator, somebody who could really identify and work with change transformation processes, and someone who also wasn't going to be just complacent with what it looks like now, and who could actually provide some leadership for the Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank, but also for the system overall in terms of being a collaborative leader, a change agent in some ways, evolving, and also pushing and pulling a little bit. And I think that's who we got. It's never comfortable. Transformation is not comfortable, and change is not comfortable for people. And so, you know, someone who's actually kind of comfortable being adaptive and comfortable saying things that maybe other people aren't necessarily willing to say. And also someone who has the intellectual capacity and the understanding of what the Federal Reserve System is to move along with what needs to stay the same. I think the best thing that happened in this process was that the Class B and C directors were really on board with listening to what was needed with the Minneapolis Federal Reserve Bank. I mean, and a lot of deep listening from people at the Board of Governors, the community overall. There was an input process with external stakeholders and from the staff of the Federal Reserve Bank. When you're dealing with something that is this important to every single American, you want to be a little thoughtful and slow at times. You want to be a serious policymaker, and you want serious and really good people on your board of directors and with the staff. I can honestly tell you that, you know, there are great people in the Federal Reserve System, volunteers and staff alike.